This is a 1947 Singer model 6616, and I have just put a new motor on it, and I've made a few adjustments, and I'm going to show you the basics about using this machine. A few of the main parts that you need to know: the spool pin where your thread goes. This is your tension device to keep your thread tension correct. This is part of your threading guides, which go down to your needle. This is your needle bar with your needle and presser bar with the presser foot on it. You always keep a piece of fabric under the presser foot. Right now the presser foot is up, and even when the machine is stored, it's a good idea to put a piece of fabric under there and lower the presser foot, and that way nothing moves around. This is your bobbin winder right here, and I'll show you how to use that. And this is the stitch length lever. You'll see there's a line, and above the line it says back tack. That is a type of reverse. The stitches are all one length, but it goes in reverse. And then below that are numbers 7 through 30, and by putting this lever next to the number, you choose the different stitch lengths, and I can show you some of the different ones. The first thing I'm going to do is show you how to wind a bobbin on this machine. Right now I have the machine threaded as if it were going to sew, but I'm going to pull this thread out, and we're going to use the same thread to wind a bobbin. You take your thread from the spool pin over to this top thread guide right here on the machine, and then down here to this bottom thread guide, and it's going to go under the little hook of that thread guide. Now you can see there's a thread guide here, and there's a thread guide here, and right now there is no bobbin on here. This is what the bobbins look like. These are vintage bobbins. They have one hole in the side, and when you put them on here, there is a little metal pin that is on this brass piece here, and the pin will fit into that little hole, and that's like that. So if the pin is not in that hole and a bobbin sticks out like that, then it won't wind. It has to fit into, the pin has to go into the hole. Now when you're winding a bobbin, you want to bring the thread from the inside of the bobbin through one of the holes to the outside. Okay, there's a view of the bobbin winder, and here's the bobbin, and as you can see, I have the thread going from the inside to the outside, like that. Now this part will get trimmed off in a moment, and so you want to leave the part that's going to get trimmed, you want to leave that to the left side so it's easy to trim. So you place the bobbin on the bobbin winder until the pin goes into the hole, like that, and then you push the bobbin winder down, and this shoe right here will come forward and hold the bobbin winder in place. So in a moment we're going to let that thread get started before we trim it off. So you can hold on to that starter thread so you don't lose it, and you bring the thread through that thread guide to the bottom thread guide, and then down at the very bottom where I showed you that hook, it goes under that hook on the bed of the machine. So now you are ready to start winding the binder. If you were to push the foot pedal now, you would have both the bobbin winder and the needle going at the same time, and you don't want to do that when you wind a bobbin. On the right hand side of the machine is a 2-inch wide metal knob, and you're going to hold the hand wheel and turn that knob to the left. And what that will do is disengage the needle, and you will be simply winding a bobbin. And you can test that by moving the hand wheel and making sure that the needle doesn't go up and down. And then you want to make sure that your thread is in your thread guides, which it is. And then we're going to need scissors to trim that thread off. And then you simply push the foot pedal. And as soon as that thread has started on the bobbin like that, then you trim that off so it doesn't get in the way. Now this arm that moves back and forth is keeping the bobbin thread tight on the bobbin. Now I've just stopped before it gets full, and I can keep going because sometimes when it gets full the whole thing will pop up. I'm not sure if that does that on this model. Let's see. And it does. So when your bobbin is full, the bobbin winder will disengage. You can make sure that it's all the way up, and then you simply remove your bobbin off of the bobbin winder. And that's winding a bobbin. If you're not familiar with sewing, you might even be wondering, why do you need a bobbin? Well, your top thread is going to, the needle is going to take it down, it's going to loop with the bobbin thread and make a stitch. It's called a lock stitch, and you need a top thread and a bobbin thread. Now before we can do anything else with the machine, we have to tighten up that knob that we loosened to wind the bobbin, and to do that you just turn it to the right, and the knob will tighten up and it'll re-engage the needle. So now you move your needle to its highest position by turning the hand wheel forward. And I'll show you where the bobbins go. This is called the slide plate. And you move it to the left, and you'll see a little button right here, and that button will pop a bobbin out. Now I could have left that bobbin in there, but since we just wound one, we'll use the one we wound. When you drop a bobbin in, and this is called drop-in bobbins, you're going to hold the bobbin like this with the thread coming off the left. I think you can see that, the thread coming off the left-hand side. And you simply drop the bobbin in, and you will see there are 2 notches. One notch that the thread goes in right there, and you sometimes have to hold the bobbin still to do it, and then the thread will come up at that notch. And once you get it under that notch and it comes up at that notch, then your bobbin is in there, and then you place the extra thread right here in this slot and close the slide plate. Now let me just get that into the notches. It actually does go in very easily. Now here's another thing. I was just working on another machine, And I bet on the bobbin, let's try it this way, where the bobbin, the thread comes off of the top. I'm sorry about that, I was working on another machine. And there you go, it goes right in. So you want the thread to come off the top to the left. And then you put the thread in that slot. And now you have to thread the upper thread of the machine. Now all of this is in the manual, both the winding the bobbin, the placing the bobbin, and the threading the machine if you have a manual. There is your spool of thread. You come over here to the thread guide, and I'm going to put the camera down again. And that is the tension area. And you're going to bring the thread down from that thread guide. There are two discs here that face away from each other. And the thread goes in the center of them and up, and you'll see it go inside that little piece of metal on the end of the spring. It'll catch the spring, and then you bring it down under the metal piece in front of it. I think you can see that. So you come up inside the spring, and you can see right here the thread is looped over the loop of the spring, and then it goes under this metal arm. It goes up. This is the thread take up. It'll go from the right to the left through here, and let me get to that point and then show you where it goes from there on the front. I have too long of a thread here, so let's trim that. So you can see the path there from the top thread guide through the tension device, under this metal arm, through the hole from the right to the left, and from here you go to the front of the machine, or the left of the machine, and there's a little hook, and you just pull the thread tightly and it'll pop right into that. That's the thread guide. And you go down to the needle area. There's a loop, a metal loop, which is another thread guide. So we're in there, and then I'm going to thread the needle from the left to the right. Different machines thread differently, but on this machine it threads from the left to the right. And I have a normal straight stitch foot on presser foot on the machine. Okay, the machine is now threaded. The needle is threaded. The bobbin is ready. The bobbin thread is ready to be picked up. And you can do that by putting a piece of fabric under the machine, putting the presser foot down by using the lever in the back. You can even do it by hand without using the foot pedal. And you just do 1 or 2 stitches. And what that will do is have the machine needle pick up the bobbin thread. You then bring your needle up to its highest position and pull everything out back, and you will see that the bobbin thread is now coming up through the needle hole in the needle plate, and the needle is threaded. So what you will do is trim these 2 threads here. You always want to give yourself about 6 inches of thread, and then keep it toward the back of the machine. But we'll trim that here. But now the machine is threaded. You have a new bobbin. Your clutch wheel, which is what that little knob is called, is tight, so the needle is engaged. We are going to set this on 10, and I'm putting the top of the arm next to the line at 10, and that setting of 10 we are going to make a simple bag to hold the foot pedal in. It'll just be straight stitching, but it will give you an idea of the machine running, and we'll make a little bag for the foot pedal. I've cut out some bright red fabric, as you can see, and it's a knit fabric, so what I'm going to do first is I'm not going to press this or measure it or anything. This is a very casual foot pedal cover, and I'm going to fold each side. This is actually not cut at the bottom, but cut on both sides. So on each side I'm going to fold that much down and make 2 hems, and then the next step is just to go up each side to make it a bag. Very simple to do, and it'll just be a few minutes of sewing. And you want to, like I said, pull the thread to the back. This is just going to be straight stitch. And then when I come to the end, I pull out a length of thread. If you can see it, this is the thread cutter on the back of the presser bar. And I'm going to trim the other thread that started that. If I had wanted to worry about fraying, I could have used back tack at the beginning and the end of each of those. And what you want to make sure of when you're making one of these is that you fold them each the same way, so that when you sew the sides, you have wrong sides inside on both sides. And this is a knit fabric, so you may have to hold on to it or guide it a little more than you would a cotton. So here we're going to do a few stitches, and then to engage the back tack feature, the lever that we have chosen next to 10, you can just lift it all the way up, and the machine will go backwards, and then move the lever back down to 10. The camera started to fall, so I think this will be a better view. That must have been fun to watch. So here I'm pulling it out, and there is the thread cutter on the back. I didn't use back tack on the end of that. And now I fold it in half with the right side on the inside. It's called right sides together. One is just slightly narrower than the other. And I'm just going to do that same straight stitch right up the side, the long side of each side. Now when you have a closing or an opening, in this case, where as you put the foot pedal in and out, this will get a little bit of stress. This is a place you would use back tack to put just a couple of stitches in reverse. It gives the whole seam a little bit of strength. We're not quite at the end there, but... And now I'll do the same for the other side. Now this I'm starting at this end, and you have to be aware when you sew, especially with knits, that the action of the presser foot and the fact that the fabric moves backwards will push your fabric around. So sometimes you have to hold it tight. So this time I'm going to do a few stitches and then do the back tack here for that extra strength, and then just now I want to show you something. I don't know if you'll see it on the red. On this side, you see those stitches. Those are set at 10. Right there. And that's how far apart they are. This is set at 7. And I did that to show you that there is a difference in the stitch length, and you can tell with that. In fact, if that's all the way down, so on this machine, that would even be your basting stitch. If you were going to do machine basting, that would be your basting stitch, is 7. Now in this case, either stitch is going to hold this, so I don't really need to go over that again. And this is something that I was just doing it quickly and casually, so I didn't completely measure the two hems. I'm just throwing this together, so but now when I turn it inside out, even though the hems don't line up, it's a little bag that you can keep the foot pedal in, because a lot of times when this machine goes down into a cabinet, it will be unplugged from the wall, and then this plug will be removed here. And this is big enough, I believe, to hold the cord and the foot pedal. And so then once the machine is lowered down into the cabinet, you could even have this on the bed of the machine when it's lowered, if it doesn't fit in the drawer over to the left. So this, using one of these, protects the bed of the machine, because 9 times out of 10 people will put their foot pedal somewhere near the machine, either when they're moving the machine or setting it up or taking it down. So that is the basic sewing. And let me show you again this. So that was 7. And on knits it didn't show up as much. If I had done that on cotton, it would have shown up much more. And then this was 10, and it goes all the way to 30. So 7 would be the longest stitches, and 30 would be the tightest, most close together stitches. Now hopefully in the next day or so I'm also going to do a video with a couple of the attachments that are with this machine. One is a tucker that I don't think I've ever used a tucker, so that'll be interesting. The other one is a hammer foot, which is simple but takes a little practice. And I believe there's a ruffler too. So hopefully I'll be able to use those on this machine and show you how those work on this machine as well.